The whispers are getting louder, the pleas are turning into shouts, they're begging someone to come clean, but it's already too late. Chosen ones, I want to ask you a question, and I need you to be honest with yourself for a second. Have you ever felt it, that gut feeling that someone you know, maybe a friend, a family member, or even a public figure, is living a lie, that they're wearing a mask and underneath something dark is brewing? Have you ever had a moment where you just knew in your spirit that they were about to be exposed and there's nothing they can do to stop it? Mark was the life of the party, always had a good word for everyone, and his smile could light up a room. People looked up to him. He was the one everyone went to for advice. He had this whole, "I'm a good guy, trust me" vibe down pat. But I, and a few others, felt this subtle shift. It was like a spiritual tremor. We saw the cracks in his perfect facade. The little white lies became bigger ones. The kindness he showed others felt less like compassion and more like a performance. We tried to talk to him, to warn him, but he just laughed it off. He was so confident in his deception, so sure that his charade would never crumble. But what he didn't realize is that the spiritual realm operates on a different kind of truth. You can't outrun the light. This is a story that plays out every single day, right in front of our eyes. Someone is out there right now, living a lie, trying to manipulate situations and whispering sweet falsehoods into the ears of people who look up to them. They've built their entire kingdom on a foundation of sand. They think they're untouchable. They think their lies are bulletproof. But here's the bold statement I want to make today. There's a cosmic court in session and a verdict is coming. There is a truth that's about to be unveiled, and the one holding the secrets is about to be exposed in a way they never saw coming. And nothing, no amount of begging, no amount of manipulation, and no amount of "I'm sorry" can save them from what's next. Their time is up. I know what you're thinking. Who is this person? What did they do? And what does this have to do with me, a chosen one? Well, that's exactly why you need to stick around. This isn't just about some mysterious person. This is about you. This is about your protection, your discernment, and your spiritual clarity. So, my magnificent chosen ones, get ready. The truth is about to be revealed, and I promise you don't want to miss a single word of it. Let's dive in. Point one, the spiritual tsunami is building. All right, let's really break this down. When I say the spiritual realm is in upheaval, I'm not talking about some vague, mystical concept. It's a real shift that affects everything from the way people behave to the way hidden truths come bubbling up, almost like secrets can no longer stay buried. Imagine standing on a beach when the ocean suddenly starts to pull back, exposing all the rocks, shells, and debris that were once hidden beneath the water. That's exactly what's happening in the spiritual atmosphere right now. For years, people who operated in manipulation, deceit, or underhanded intentions could hide beneath the surface. They could mask their true nature with charm, with smooth words, or with fabricated stories. But when the divine tide pulls back, it reveals every hidden thing. Suddenly those lies can't hold anymore, and the very foundation they built on begins to crumble. This is what makes it both fascinating and terrifying. We're living in a time where spiritual energy is exposing people for who they truly are. And the thing is, they feel it. They may not be able to explain it in words, but deep inside they know the mask is slipping. That's why you'll often notice these individuals becoming erratic, anxious, or even strangely desperate for your attention. Think of it like when someone is cornered. They don't always respond with calm logic. They thrash, they panic, and they grab onto whatever feels safe. And for many of them, that safe place is you. They sense your spiritual strength, your divine alignment, and your clarity. It's like you're standing steady on solid ground while they're caught in quicksand, sinking faster the more they struggle. Now here's the part that most people miss. This isn't about you fighting them, or about revenge, or about you finally getting to point fingers and say, "See, I knew you were fake." No, this is much bigger. What's happening is a divine realignment. In history, whenever great upheavals happened, it wasn't just random chaos. There was always a higher purpose at play. Think about ancient civilizations when corruption and lies reached their peak. Something always came to sweep it clean, whether it was a physical collapse, a societal reset, or a spiritual awakening. What we're seeing now is that same pattern repeating, but on a deeply personal and spiritual level. Psychologists might call it cognitive dissonance. When a person can no longer reconcile the lies they've lived with the truth that keeps surfacing. Spiritual teachers might call it karma, the inevitable return of what you've sown. The Bible calls it reaping what you sow. Whatever label you give it, the principle is the same. Truth has a way of demanding to be seen, and when it does, it shakes everything not rooted in authenticity. This is why those who have built their lives on falsehoods feel like the walls are closing in. Their carefully constructed illusions are collapsing under the weight of divine order. And here's where you come in. Chosen ones are not just passive observers in this process. You are the living proof that truth exists. Your very presence unsettles those operating in deception because your light exposes their shadows without you even trying. It's not that you're calling them out in a human sense. It's that your energy, your clarity, and your walk with God do the work. That's why they cling to you. It's why they may suddenly try to mirror your actions, copy your words, or position themselves close to you, hoping some of your stability will rub off on them. But here's the twist. They don't want transformation, they want camouflage. They want to stand near you, so when the divine wave comes, maybe people won't notice their cracks. But make no mistake, the wave is not something you can hide from. It's not personal vendettas, it's not rumor or gossip, it's the Creator's design. Anything not rooted in truth will be washed away. It's like an old building sitting on a shaky foundation. No matter how beautiful the paint job or how convincing the facade, if the foundation is rotten, it will collapse when the storm hits. And right now, that storm is here. So when you notice certain people behaving strangely around you, remember this: it's not random. They are feeling the tremors of a collapsing spiritual structure. They're reaching for anything steady, and your life just happens to be a lighthouse in their chaos. Your role is not to save them from the storm, but to stand firm in your own truth. Because when the tsunami clears, only what is real, authentic, and divinely aligned will remain standing. And chosen one, that's you. Point 2, the silence of the confidant. Here's the funny and yet deeply profound thing: chosen one. The person you think has it all figured out. The one who built their life on smoke and mirrors. The one who has always relied on whispers, manipulation, and half-truths to survive. Well, they had a confidant. Someone close enough to be trusted with their most dangerous secrets. At first, this confidant may have seemed like a loyal ally, almost like a sidekick in a movie, standing by them through every twisted plot and every carefully crafted lie. But here's the twist. Their spiritual eyes are opening. They're not the same person they were when they first got pulled into this web. It's like watching a caterpillar transform into a butterfly. Except the transformation is painful because the wings they're growing are built on truth, and truth always stretches, cracks, and reshapes the soul. And oh, what a truth it is. This isn't just gossip. This isn't just a story whispered in secret. It's a revelation that burns through illusions like fire through paper. The confidant is seeing the full picture now, and it terrifies them. Imagine realizing that someone you trusted was building their entire empire, their entire identity on lies. Imagine seeing that empire begin to crack in real time. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff and watching the ground slowly crumble beneath your feet. You know the fall is coming, but you don't know when the earth will finally give way. Here's where it gets even more dramatic. Everyone around them can sense this shift. People are restless. They feel it in the air, like when a storm is about to break and the wind changes direction. They're practically begging the confidant, tell us what you know, set us free from this confusion, this illusion, this fog of lies. But the confidant stays silent, not because they're still protecting the deceiver. No, that loyalty is long since cracked. Their silence is different. It's heavy. It's the silence of someone who knows the truth is too big, too sacred, too devastating to be spoken by human lips alone. This is where we see a deep spiritual principle at work. Sometimes the truth is so immense that it doesn't belong to us to reveal. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 3:7, there is a time to be silent and a time to speak. That's what's happening here. The confidant is paralyzed not by fear of retaliation, but by the sheer weight of what they've discovered. They've realized that their words, no matter how carefully chosen, can't fix the situation. If they were to spill it all, it wouldn't bring peace. It would bring chaos. And they know deep down that the collapse we're witnessing isn't their job, to orchestrate. It's God's. Think about how many times in history this has happened. Powerful people who seemed untouchable eventually fell, not because someone blew the whistle, but because the truth had a way of revealing itself. Empires crumbled, reputations shattered, and masks slipped. Why? Because truth, like light, can only be hidden for so long before it breaks through the cracks. This confidant is like a reluctant witness to prophecy unfolding. They don't need to act because the divine already has. And here's the most captivating part. While everyone is begging for answers, waiting for a confession, the real story is being written in silence. Silence is sometimes louder than words. It speaks of divine timing, of God's hand moving unseen, of justice that doesn't require human meddling. The confidant is learning that their role isn't to play hero or savior, it's to watch, to endure, and to understand that when God delivers truth, it lands with a power no human tongue could replicate. So yes, the deceiver's downfall is agonizing, slow, and painful to watch. Yes, the confidant feels torn, burdened by what they know, and almost desperate to shout it out just to relieve the pressure. But they resist. Why? Because they've glimpsed the truth that sets people free, and they know that truth is not theirs to weaponize, it belongs to God alone. And chosen one, here's the lesson for you. Sometimes silence is the most powerful act of faith. Sometimes your role isn't to expose, confront, or explain, but simply to stand back and let the divine unravel what was never meant to stand. When God reveals truth, it won't be whispered, it'll thunder. And when it does, everyone will know it was Him. Point 3, the unraveling from within. You see, a house built on lies doesn't simply collapse when the winds of truth come blowing from the outside. No, it begins to deteriorate from within its own foundation. The person who has been living a life of deception, thinking they are untouchable, unknowingly becomes the architect of their own downfall. Every lie they tell requires another lie to cover it. Every falsehood becomes another brick stacked unevenly on a foundation that cannot hold. Soon they aren't just deceiving others, they're deceiving themselves. They're forced to keep an internal ledger of half-truths and manipulations. But memory is never perfect. Over time, confusion sets in. They begin to mix up their stories, stumble over their words, and contradict their own narratives. This is where the real collapse begins. Chosen ones, not in the world's judgment, but in the torment of their own minds. Living in a constant state of deceit is like trying to balance on a tightrope while carrying the weight of the world. It looks effortless for a moment, maybe even impressive, but eventually the strain breaks the performer. Studies in psychology even back this up. Lying increases stress hormones like cortisol, disrupts sleep cycles, and chips away at mental clarity. The human brain was designed to hold and process truth. Lies are like foreign objects in the system, triggering anxiety and disorientation. This is why those who thrive on manipulation often look polished on the surface, but inwardly are consumed with paranoia and exhaustion. Their so-called confidence is just a mask, and masks, no matter how convincing, eventually slip. What you must understand, chosen ones, is that this unraveling is not your battle to fight. It never was. One of the hardest lessons for those walking in light is resisting the urge to expose those working in shadows. Your instinct may be to call them out, to gather evidence, to bring the truth to the surface, but the divine design doesn't require your intervention. As it is written, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. The one entangled in lies is already walking through their misery. You don't need to hand them their consequences, they're experiencing them every single day. Their own words and actions betray them. They are restless, unable to find peace, toss and turn in their sleep, and are haunted by the constant fear of being discovered. This torment is what makes deception a prison without bars. Unlike a physical prison where you can see the walls that contain you, this prison is internal. It moves with them everywhere they go. They could be sitting in a crowded room, smiling and laughing, yet inside they are panicking, desperately checking the weak spots in their own web. And here's the irony. While they once believed their lies made them powerful, now those very lies hold power over them. They are not in control anymore. The lie is. That's the difference between walking in truth and walking in deception. The truth liberates you, even if it costs you comfort at first. A lie enslaves you, no matter how glamorous it looks in the beginning, and so, chosen one, this is where your role is divine. You are not called to wrestle in the mud with deceivers or to dirty your hands in their chaos. Your job is to remain still, remain anchored, and remain in truth. Watch as God's law of cause and effect plays out before your eyes. Their misery is not punishment delivered by you. It's the natural result of sowing falsehoods. Just as a farmer cannot plant weeds and expect roses, one cannot plant lies and expect peace. They are harvesting exactly what they sowed. This is why you should never envy those who seem to prosper by deception. Their success is temporary, their peace is counterfeit, and their joy is rented. Everything built on falsehood comes with an expiration date. The more you step back, the more clearly you will see this principle at work. You'll witness their sleepless nights, their broken relationships, and their restless spirits. And all the while, your peace remains untouched and your spirit remains whole because you chose truth, even when it was costly. Remember this, chosen one. You don't need to fight battles that God has already taken into his own hands. Lies always collapse under their own weight. Truth stands eternal. Let their misery be their teacher, while your faith and integrity remain your fortress. The collapse is already written. All you have to do is stand and watch. Point 4. Divine intervention is not a negotiation. This is where it gets real. The person in question has reached the point where desperation takes over, and suddenly they find themselves bargaining, not just with God, but with life itself, with the universe, with any higher force that might take pity on them. They whisper empty promises into the air. Please just let me off the hook. I'll change. I'll be better. I'll never do it again. But here's the truth that stings like salt on an open wound. Divine intervention isn't some backroom deal you can negotiate your way out of. It isn't a courtroom where smooth words and apologies buy you leniency. Divine intervention is a correction, a redirection, a higher power stepping in to remind you that the universe operates on order, not loopholes. You can't sweet-talk your way past spiritual law any more than you can convince gravity to stop pulling you down. What most people forget is that the universe is wired with a system far more precise than any man-made law. It's what ancient wisdom and countless spiritual traditions call the law of cause and effect. Every thought, every action, and every intention you release is a seed you plant in the soil of existence. Sooner or later, that seed bears fruit, whether sweet or bitter depends on what you sowed. It's a law as old as time and as unbending as the rising sun. If you've planted deception, betrayal, or manipulation, don't be surprised when the harvest comes in the form of exposure and consequence. Nature doesn't make exceptions, and neither does spirit. Think about it this way. When someone lights a fire, the flame doesn't negotiate with them about whether it should burn. It just burns. The same goes for spiritual laws. You cannot sow chaos and expect peace as your return. You cannot wound others and expect to live untouched. At some point, what you've put out into the world circles back, and when it does, it often arrives louder, stronger, and sharper than when it first left your hands. That's the reckoning. It's not punishment, it's alignment. It's life putting the pieces back where they belong. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. When people find themselves exposed or confronted, their instinct is to plead for mercy, as though divine order functions like human sympathy. But this isn't about sentiment, it's about truth. The universe isn't cruel, it's consistent, and consistency is the highest form of justice. If someone lived their life weaving illusions, pulling strings and cloaking themselves in masks, then the great unveiling was always written into their story. Exposure is not cruelty, it's clarity, and clarity is the only soil where growth can begin. This moment, for the one who thought they could bend truth, is terrifying. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that refuses to lie back to you. No filters, no excuses, no escape routes, just the raw reflection of what you've done and who you've become. That's what divine correction feels like. And here's the irony. While they might see it as punishment, it's actually an invitation. A sacred invitation to stop running, stop pretending, and finally face the truth. Because only in truth can transformation begin. The reckoning is non-negotiable. You can't out-talk it, outrun it, or outsmart it. You can only walk through it. And though it feels brutal, though it feels like the walls are caving in, there's a strange kind of grace hidden in this process. The grace is that exposure clears the slate. It stops the cycle of deception. It forces authenticity to take root where lies once thrived. It might be the most uncomfortable season of their life, but it's also the most necessary. Without the correction, the story would spiral into deeper chaos. With it, there is finally a chance for alignment, for humility, for real change, not the performative kind they promised in desperation, but the kind born out of accountability. So yes, this is a moment of reckoning, and no, it cannot be negotiated. But here's the twist: if they embrace it, if they accept that what's happening is not cruelty but correction, this could become the turning point of their entire journey. Because divine intervention, while sharp, always has the same purpose: to bring us back into truth, to strip away illusions, and to guide us closer to who we were meant to be all along. Point 5. Your role as a discernment lighthouse. Now let's take a moment to really dig into this, my chosen ones, because what you are carrying is not just a nice idea or a feel-good mantra. It's a real spiritual assignment with roots that stretch far into both scripture and history. Think about the term discernment lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't chase the storm, it doesn't shout at the waves, and it certainly doesn't go around judging which ship deserves safe passage. No, its job is simple yet profound. It just shines, it cuts through fog, it warns of danger, and it offers direction to those who are lost. That's you in this season. You don't need to argue, to fight, or to justify yourself to anyone. Your light alone does the work. What makes this even more fascinating is how science and spirituality intersect here. Studies in quantum physics suggest that energy is influenced by observation, meaning that your awareness, your prayer, your intention actually has a measurable impact on the environment around you. In the same way, your prayers as a chosen one are not just whispers into the air. Their energy is sent forth, shifting the atmosphere, helping to expose deception and strengthening truth. This is why so many around you may suddenly feel uncomfortable when you enter a room. They are sensing the vibrational change you carry. Your very presence is a silent testimony. History, too, echoes this pattern. Think of reformers, prophets, and visionaries who never had to lift a sword, yet changed entire nations. Gandhi didn't march out with armies. His greatest weapon was peace. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't respond to hate with hate. He anchored himself in love and truth, becoming a light that exposed the ugliness of injustice. In their own ways, they embodied what you, as a chosen one, are called to embody now: integrity, discernment, and peace as forms of unshakable power. So when I say your peace is your power, I mean it literally. The enemy feeds on chaos, thrives on retaliation, and wants to pull you into the mud. But your refusal to bow to that frequency makes you untouchable. The more you stay aligned with your light, the more you disrupt the darkness without lifting a finger. That is the divine paradox. You win not by fighting harder, but by standing taller. Keep walking in integrity, keep trusting that inner compass, and keep radiating the truth you were born to carry. You're not just surviving the storm, chosen one. You are the beacon guiding the world through it. Point 6, nothing can save them, but everyone can be saved. This concept is fascinating because it touches on a profound and somewhat paradoxical principle. Justice, especially in the spiritual sense, often manifests in ways that defy our conventional expectations. In human terms, we tend to imagine justice as immediate, visible, and punitive, an eye for an eye retribution. But the universe operates differently. There are certain individuals whose actions, manipulations, or deceptions set into motion an inevitable reckoning. Nothing and no one can prevent this course, as if it were etched into the very fabric of time, immutable and unyielding. No amount of scheming, misdirection, or narrative twisting can alter the trajectory of their exposure. This is not about cruelty, nor is it an act of vindictiveness. It is a correction embedded within the natural order. Their downfall serves as a reminder that imbalance cannot persist indefinitely. The cosmos, in its quiet yet absolute precision, ensures that truth cannot be suppressed forever. In this sense, the consequences these individuals face are both certain and necessary, functioning as a balancing force rather than mere punishment. Here's where the paradox becomes deeply intriguing. While this person cannot escape the weight of truth, their inevitable exposure simultaneously serves as a release for everyone who has been caught in the web of their deception. Truth has a liberating power that extends far beyond the individual being held accountable. It clarifies situations that were previously murky, provides resolution to those who were manipulated, and restores a sense of moral and emotional equilibrium to communities or relationships that suffered under the shadow of lies. Psychologically, this mirrors the concept of cognitive closure. the relief and healing that occur once a truth is recognized and acknowledged. The unveiling of hidden motives or actions, while uncomfortable, functions as a catalyst for emotional and spiritual restoration. Imagine a dense forest under the cover of night where danger and confusion lurk unseen. When the first rays of dawn break through, the forest is not destroyed, but the shadows retreat and everything becomes visible. The exposure of deception works in the same way. It illuminates hidden truths, allowing clarity and understanding to emerge. This dynamic can also be observed in historical and social contexts. Consider leaders, organizations, or public figures whose unethical actions were initially concealed. When scandals inevitably surface, the exposure is often painful and shameful for the wrongdoer. Yet it provides society with the knowledge and opportunity to correct systemic harm. The process is akin to a surgical intervention. Just as a doctor may cut into infected tissue to remove it, causing temporary pain, the subsequent healing is made possible because the underlying issue has been addressed. Similarly, when a person's deceit or corruption is revealed, the immediate discomfort serves a long-term purpose: the restoration of integrity, trust, and balance within the affected environment. Spiritually, this principle aligns with teachings across traditions that emphasize the inevitability of truth and karmic balance. In the Christian worldview, for instance, nothing hidden remains unexposed, as highlighted in scriptures that remind us that truth will eventually prevail and that all actions are recorded and accounted for. In Eastern philosophies, the concept of karma underscores the same inevitability. Actions, particularly harmful ones, have consequences that unfold naturally in the course of time. The universe does not mete out arbitrary vengeance, rather it enforces the principles of balance, correction, and restoration. The person facing exposure is not punished out of malice, they are encountering the natural outcomes of the energy they have set into motion. In this way, the fall of the deceptive individual is not simply a negative event, it is a necessary turning point for the restoration of universal harmony. For those who have been affected, this process is profoundly transformative. Healing begins once the truth is seen, acknowledged, and understood. Emotional confusion, feelings of betrayal, and lingering doubt give way to clarity, allowing people to reclaim their agency and rebuild what was compromised. It's a reminder that justice is not only about holding the wrongdoer accountable, but also about liberating the innocent. When deception collapses, the ripple effects extend outward. Clarity replaces uncertainty, trust can be restored in authentic relationships, and moral order is re-established. The universe, in its quiet and unwavering authority, communicates a message that resonates on multiple levels. Lies may obscure reality for a time, but truth, like light, cannot be extinguished. Exposure is not humiliation, it is a purification process. The individual faces the necessary consequences while the wider community experiences relief, understanding, and renewal. Ultimately, this is a beautiful paradox. The inevitability of truth brings hardship to one but freedom to many. It reminds us that justice is not always about punishment in the human sense, but about balance, correction, and restoration. The universe is relentless in its pursuit of equilibrium, ensuring that deception cannot endure unchecked. This unfolding of truth demonstrates that while suffering may accompany exposure, it is a meaningful suffering that leads to healing and liberation. In the end, the individual's reckoning becomes a beacon of clarity, revealing hidden realities and empowering others to step out of confusion and into understanding. In the grand tapestry of life, the collapse of falsehood is not merely an end, it is a necessary beginning for those who have been waiting for truth to shine and for balance to be restored. Point 7. A new chapter of clarity. My beautiful chosen ones, when secrets finally break through the silence, it is never by accident. This unveiling you're about to witness is not just gossip, nor is it simply the exposure of someone's hidden actions. It is divine timing. Throughout history, truth has always had a way of rising, no matter how deeply buried. Think of how hidden manuscripts, buried for centuries, suddenly resurface to shed light on forgotten knowledge. In the same way, the secrets surrounding you are being peeled back, layer by layer, until what was once concealed can no longer remain in the shadows. This is spiritual law. What is hidden in darkness must eventually be brought to the light. And here's what makes this moment powerful. You are standing at the edge of a new chapter where the fog that once clouded your vision is finally lifting. All those restless nights when your spirit felt unsettled were not in vain. That inner discomfort was never random. It was your intuition, your divine compass, alerting you that something beneath the surface wasn't right. Now, as clarity flows in like sunlight through a cracked window, you will understand not just what happened, but why it needed to happen this way. This revelation is not a conclusion, but an initiation into greater wisdom. God's justice doesn't just punish wrongdoing, it liberates the innocent, it validates your inner knowing, and it strengthens your faith. So when you see these secrets exposed, don't see it as chaos, see it as alignment. It is the universe rearranging itself to favor the truth, and you, chosen one, are stepping into a season where lies can no longer control the narrative. This is not the end of your story. It's the divine confirmation that your story is only just beginning. So remember this, my magnificent chosen ones. While the world is watching someone get their karmic comeuppance, you are being called to a higher purpose. Your journey is about rising above the chaos, staying grounded in your spiritual truth and trusting the divine process. The truth is already here, and it's working on your behalf. As the great Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And when they try to hide, know that their own truth is already on its way to find them. Stay awake, stay aware, and keep your light shining brightly. The season of clarity is upon us. Be ready to walk in it with grace and power. I love you all. Peace out.